This is Chet Holmgren, and I'm down to dunk.
This is AJ Mitchell, and I'm down to dunk.
This is Alex Crusoe, and I'm down to dunk.
It's like baby bottle pop. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. This is Adam Flagler, and I'm down to dunk.
Hey, it's Isaiah Hartenstein, and I'm down to dunk.
This is Kason Wallace, and I'm down to dunk.
I can't spell Lucas. Hey, how do you spell Lucas? How do you spell Lucas?
This is Lou Dort, and I'm down to Dort.
This is Nikola Topic, and I'm down to dunk.
This is Dylan Jones, and I'm down to dunk.
This is Isaiah Joe, and I'm down to dunk.
And there's probably like 50 to 75 Beanie Babies.
Give me like your top 3 Pokemon.
Brother, I can't even name.
This is Jay Will, and I'm down to dunk.
Sometimes the way his brain works is it leaves a lot to be desired.
This is Kenrich Williams, and I'm down to dunk.
Charmander.
Yeah.
Charmander. Or you're more of a Charmeleon guy.
Charmeleon.
This is Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, and I'm down to dunk.
Schlecht. You know what
Schlecht?
it means? Yeah.
That means like bad.
It means bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's me.
Well, it was a good interview, so it wasn't bad.
J-Dub, year 3, and I'm down to dunk for the 3rd time. Thank you.
Welcome to Down to Dunk. I'm your host, Andrew Schlecht. We're part of the Athletic Podcast Network. With me is my good friend, Es Baraheni, joining me.
What up?
He's on the NBA Daily. If you're not listening or watching that, you should, because S provides such great analysis on a weekly basis. So
Appreciate you, dude.
Thanks for coming on, man.
Dude, Nikola Topic was so serious in that intro. Oh my goodness.
You better believe it. He means
Welcome
business.
Down. Oh my God, he was so serious. I can't wait to watch him next year. Like, just based off that, I'm like, I need to watch this guy play some basketball next year. My goodness.
I had to hold myself back because I don't know if you saw this interview, but he talked about how his favorite movie was Air Bud.
Okay.
In a serious way that I like that day. Like once I looked into his eyes that day, I was like, I can't ask him that. This is a child. Like I cannot be like
Everybody's surprising. That's not his generation, you know? Like,
no, it's not his generation. And frankly, shouldn't be anyone's favorite movie. Okay?
What? Wait, whoa, what? You could have Air Bud as your favorite movie.
Disagree.
This is my generation right here.
Dog
Air
that
Bud,
plays
you know?
basketball.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm part of
well,
that.
he did a bunch of things. There was there were multiple versions of this.
If he loves the whole series, if he loves Space Buddies or whatever, he needs to let us know. So,
God.
So yesterday, I thought, man, I was like, hey, Amy, clear the schedule because we got Game 7, and it's going to be great. And I want us to all be able to sit on the couch and watch this game. And it was not a game.
No, not at all.
This was not a game. And you know what? Why did we all do it again? Why did we all decide that a team that has James Harden on it could do something really cool? Why do we do this? Why do we do this to ourselves every year? I mean, it is Charlie Brown and the football all over again, I feel like, for the entire NBA community with this Clippers team.
Yeah, you feel like the Kawhi Leonard, power that he has as a playoff performer, you think it might be able to carry or balance out the Clippers voodoo and James Harden. It just it
compounded.
Yeah, it did compound. Really, it really did compound. What a weird game. Also, I've said this before, but Clippers and Nuggets, it felt like they just took turns in the series being exhausted.
Yeah,
and the Clippers looked just gassed in Game 7. They looked exhausted in that game.
Yeah. Some of it could have been altitude,
Yeah.
Come on. How long have all of those guys played in Denver? They've played in Denver many, many times throughout their career. They understand what it takes. I don't know. If you can't get up for Game 7, man. I don't know.
And James Harden after Game 6, he was like, man, 47 minutes, 48 minutes, not a problem. Gotta do what we gotta do. Overtime, sure, count me in. And 9 shots.
And then he wouldn't talk to the media afterwards.
Yeah.
Hilarious. So the Thunder play the Denver Nuggets, and they play them Monday because this Warriors Rockets series is going 7. They play today.
Yep.
And so really quick turnaround for the Nuggets to have to come to Oklahoma City to play a very well-rested Thunder team who's played, I think my buddy Brandon posted that
I
they played
like
4 games in 24 days or something like
yeah,
that.
the starters played 4 games this month or something like that, or 5 games this month, something like that, which is nuts. Just what? What are we talking about here? They've played 5 games. Now, let me ask you this. Do you think that that could be like a hindrance at all? Like the fact that they haven't played and it's like you got to kind of get yourself back up to playoff mode. Is that a thing?
It's the whole rest versus rust
Right.
conundrum.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like honestly, it's round 2. You lost in round 2 last year.
Mm-hmm.
If you can't get up for this series,
Yeah.
I don't know what to say. I don't know. There's no like real excuse there.
Right. Yeah. You have to
They've
be
been
ready.
practicing. I know that there's definitely like rhythm and stuff like that comes into play, but I mean, the Thunder just need to, take stock in all the controllables for them, which is like defensively, like there shouldn't be rust defensively for them.
Right. Yeah.
It's really just about the shooting. Like if you're concerned about anything with all of this, it's the shooting.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's obviously like a really good thing for a lot of players, and specifically for Chet. And we've talked about that on this show, is that Chet, like he needs this kind of rest. Like he is still recovering to a degree from this injury and is not like 100%, but having a month like this, I think actually may get him there. And he looked great against Memphis.
Yeah.
And so I just wonder specifically about him, this being like a very, very good thing. And then everybody else just needs to be able to shoot it well. But the good thing is like they're not asking one guy to shoot it well. And if he doesn't shoot it well, then they're screwed. It's like they have a lot of guys to go to off the bench. And, J-Dub played really well off the long break last time. And it's really just Shea. It's funny because like Shea is the constant. He's the one that you would always count on.
Yeah.
In every situation. He's the one that at least in his efficiency was not who he typically is in round 1, which is interesting. But
had a big game 4 though, like that final.
Oh yeah, he was back.
Yeah, that felt like
they needed him to be, but
felt like the rust versus rest thing, where like game 4 he finally kind of got his mojo back. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but I agree with you on the Chet front, just because I think he's so important to this series too. I mean, now that we're looking forward to Jokic, it's crazy that like Denver just faced the second best defense, grueling 7-game series, and it's like your prize, the best defense, maybe the best defense ever. Yeah, good luck. Let's see how you do.
We got 6 Chris Dunns on this team. Okay.
Yeah, there are 7 different types of Chris Dunns on this roster.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's gonna be insane to watch. And like Chet is a huge part of that, because I'm assuming they throw Hartenstein initially on Jokic as the Zubats-ish type of guy.
Yep.
And then Chet is the helper, right?
Yep.
That means helping off of Aaron Gordon. I imagine. Maybe they put Russ on, Chet on Russ when Russ is on the floor, just to kind of dare him to shoot again. Although Russ had a pretty good series versus Denver, versus the Clippers, shot 43%. But generally, that's the game plan defensively that I'm looking for. It's like that double big lineup with Chet and Hartenstein, and then Jokic and Hartenstein being the main matchup, and then Chet helping out. That's the defensive game plan, at least, right?
Yeah, I think that's definitely how they'll start. And Chet has done a pretty good job on Jokic in the past as well.
Man, opening game was awesome. My God, was that the opening night?
Yes.
Was that? Yeah.
Opening night. And he was just an absolute monster.
Yeah.
Against him. And so I do think that they feel comfortable playing both those guys on him. And I'm sure that they'll give Jay Will just like small spurts here and there on Jokic. And it's never, you never guard Jokic with one guy. Like that's just never how it works.
Yeah.
But it's about like how many different looks can you give him? Because I think that we saw in this series with the Clippers that Jokic eventually figured out everything that they wanted to do with the Clippers. And so like they threw several different looks at him, and by the end of it didn't really matter. And so for the Thunder, it's about like how many looks can you give him, and how difficult can those be at this point? Because Zubats is a good matchup for Jokic. Like that's about as good as it gets. And I think that Hartenstein is on a similar level defensively. And so I think that the Thunder obviously have a good shot at defending him. But it comes down to like, can you adjust like how many games is this series? And then like how many different looks can you give him? Because I do think that you have to have a lot of stuff ready. And I'd expect Mark to be completely prepared and ready for this. But Jokic is like a really tough puzzle.
Yeah, you're never gonna solve that. But like, I think OKC does a great job of shrinking and expanding, and that's a really, really great game plan against Jokic. Because what Jokic does is like, all right, I'm in the post. I'm going to force you to make a decision. Either you're going to double team me here, and I'm going to make the right pass, or you're not going to double team me, and I'm going to get in the paint, get into the teeth of the defense, get a shot at the rim. It might be a tough shot, but I'm Nikola Jokic, and I'm going to make that shot, right? And I think one of the interesting things, I was kind of looking this up this morning because I know you've mentioned this, the corner three aspect. Denver is last in corner three frequency this season. They don't take any corner threes whatsoever. So that's kind of working in OKC's favor. But at the same time, when Denver does take corner threes, they're the second best at knocking corner threes. So it's like if Jokic finds that out at some point in this series where it's like, hey, that corner is always open, opposite corner, I can just skip it to them, that might end up being kind of a thing that OKC has to solve. But at the same time, like, I'm thinking in my mind, Hartenstein as the primary, Chet helping at the rim, and you have guys like Caruso and Kaysen and Shea and Lou kind of just pinching in every time Jokic wants to make a decision. Like there's no better defensive game plan than that. There really isn't. You can't think of something better to throw at a guy like that,
Yeah, and they did a good job of recovering to corners against Memphis, but Memphis doesn't have the playmakers.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And they didn't have the shoot, like, they had Desmond Bane and Luke Kennard, but that was pretty much it in the shooting department, right?
Yeah. And they didn't even shoot it that well. Kennard was like not a factor in that series at all. Yeah, I'm even looking in the playoffs. The Nuggets are taking 7.3 corner threes per game, which is not very many. Like the most, like the Warriors take the most at 12 and a half. So it's not many. Yeah, and like that's the thing. Like even the Lakers took 10 a game. Cleveland takes about 10 a game. The Clippers take about 10 a game. And so that is a really big deal. Like if they don't go to that well, I think that will be impactful for them.
Also, Denver doesn't shoot that much, like other than Michael Porter Jr., Jamal Murray when he catches fire. Yeah, Aaron Gordon has had a pretty good shooting season plus playoffs. Like he shot the ball well. But they don't shoot that much. They really don't shoot threes. So that's another aspect of this.
Yeah. Porter Jr. is a really interesting one in this because apparently he can't take off or put on his own jersey.
Yeah.
Right now.
Yeah.
That's a problem.
Yeah. I can't believe that he's even playing right now, to be honest with you. Yeah.
I think that, it says a lot about him. A guy that is, I wouldn't say he's very well liked.
Right.
Amongst.
Yeah.
Media or the league, but it says a lot about him that he would kind of gut this one out. Who takes the most corner threes on the Nuggets?
Russ.
It's Russ.
Oh, really? Oh, wow. Yeah.
Almost 3 a game.
That makes sense to me because they help off him a lot, right?
Yes.
So they're like, we're daring you to shoot these shots. And most of them are in the corner because he's camped in the corner a lot. So
41% in round 1.
Wow.
Which is honestly delicious. Delightful. I would be like, hey, Russ,
go for it.
You are such a good shooter, man.
Man, he's used to those rims, though. He's used to
so good.
He's used to OKC.
How long do you think it would? Do you think I just don't think he'll shoot 40% and 41% from 3 in 2 series.
Yeah, that's tough. I don't think he will either. But Yeah, I mean the Russ factor is interesting. This is sort of another wrinkle to this is that OKC is so much more deep than Denver. Like
Yeah.
Denver has 5.5 players on any given night. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now game 7, Peyton Watson was pretty good for them, so they had 7 players there with Russ counting as that 6th player. But like even then, OKC has 9. They have 10 even at times, and they're in round 1. This is something I wanted to ask you too. It's like Aaron Wiggins barely played after game 1. They were kind of fighting to figure out if it was going to be an Isaiah Joe series or an Aaron Wiggins series, and none of those guys really cracked the rotation crazy because they really leaned on Caruso to get stops for them. And now against Denver, it's like, all right, you have your pick of the litter in terms of what you want look wise from your bench. And yeah, they'll probably want to go bigger just because Denver is a bigger team. So I wonder how often we see a Wiggins, how often we see a Isaiah Joe, just because of the shooting. But it's just the options to go to for Denver, they are not there. And you just talked about them being in a grueling 7-game series. Like they are tired and they only have 6 players, 7 at most to play on any given night, which is like, damn, that's tough.
Yeah.
That's tough.
I think that's the strength,
Mhm.
for OKC is that you can go to Caruso. I mean, that's the thing is like you have the starting lineup that's really good defensively.
Mhm.
And then coming off the bench is Alex Caruso and Cason Wallace.
Yeah.
And like that, like people have been like sending me gifts of like the Bash Brothers, which it feels appropriate. That feels appropriate. Are you a Mighty Ducks guy? You see Mighty Ducks? You know what I'm talking about?
When I was a kid, I watched it. Yeah.
Okay. I'm like,
I'm Canadian. I gotta watch the hockey movies. you know?
okay. I mean, I didn't want to assume anything.
Yeah, fair. Yeah.
But having those two guys come off the bench is a really big deal.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously they're going to rely on Isaiah Joe for shooting. And then Wiggins is kind of that 9th. He's become kind of that 9th guy for them.
Yeah.
Like I think that he will probably have a game. He had a game against the Grizzlies that was really good. I think in game 1 he was the leading scorer for the team. And then he'll have games where he doesn't play much, and that's just kind of what his role is at this point. But Mark also changes things up quite a bit.
He does.
Series game to game. So I don't know that there's really something specific to count on here off the bench. I think that he'll just kind of read the series. And I think that honestly, I don't think Wiggs is that bad defensively. And so, and Denver doesn't, the guys that they go to off the bench aren't big. They basically just have guards off the bench. And then I'm really interested to see how like these non-Jokic minutes fare against OKC, and if the Thunder can take advantage of those and like how they take advantage of those, because that's the biggest thing for Denver is like, how do we survive the minutes where we don't have Nikola Jokic on the floor? I'm going to try to pull up the stats. I don't know if you have them handy, but I'm going to pull them up right now.
Sure.
What they were like in the playoffs, because it is not
with Jokic off the floor.
Yeah. It's not
probably not great. They won their minutes in game 7 with Jokic off the floor, but that's not saying much.
I was going to say that's with a team completely giving up.
Yeah. Let's see. So with Jokic, oh my goodness, that's worse than I thought it was. Oh my god. In 61 minutes with Jokic off the floor, the Nuggets had a minus 27 net rating.
Yeah, that's bad.
They were plus 5.6 with him on the floor, minus 27. So it was basically a 32-point swing when he was on and off the floor, which is just absurd.
Yeah, you can't.
They turn into basically like a lottery team. They turn into the Wizards with him off the floor.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's nuts. That's crazy. Oh my god, that's actually a very shocking stat. I thought it was going to be bad. I didn't know it was going to be that bad, to be honest with you.
You just have to pummel them.
Yeah, and look from OKC side, the bench units typically have been the J-Dub plus Hartenstein or J-Dub plus Chet minutes, right?
Yep.
If I'm not mistaken. So like that's a very, very potent lineup. I think that works very well and like the Bash brothers and Caruso and Kaysen, like that. Plus that, it's like let's force turnovers, let's run our half court offense through J Dub and Hartenstein. Like there's a very clear identity to that group now, and they also have the Chet Hartenstein duo that they can lean on a little bit, because that duo was really fun offensively in the games that I've watched them. They were really, really fun. Defensively, it was sort of a different situation. I think it'll be interesting to see how they look. But offensively, they were so electric together. The cutting, the passing ability, Hartenstein, and then just the shooting and kind of creation ability of Chet made for a lot of really, really cool actions. But that's such a clear advantage for OKC. Like it's very, very clear that that's going to be a thing. Is there one thing that might worry you in this series? Because if I'm looking at this from a completely, I'm trying to be as objective as possible. Even though Canadian side of me is like would love OKC to win this series. Is there anything that kind of piques your interest in terms of what advantage Denver has other than Jokic, other than even if that's an advantage because you have Shea on the other side?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it comes down to like they just have more experience in the Thunder. I just don't know that there's like super tangible advantages that Denver has against OKC. Like if this series was played on paper, I mean, it's like, this is a 4 or 5 game series when you look at both rosters. But we all know like that's not how it goes, and so like can Jamal Murray be amazing for 4 games? That's like a question. The experience of Jokic, the experience of Aaron Gordon, like they have that,
right?
And they've been in tight spots. Like they just won a game 7, and so it's like really more about the intangible stuff for me. It's like, can the Thunder gain the experience that they need to like push on to the conference finals and feel like that's enough? Feel like they're mentally in a good enough place to go to the NBA finals. Like that's like been the only question, because you look at everything else. They have the depth. They have a guy who could be the best player in the series. They have a good co-star. They have great interior defense. They have great point of attack defense. They just have it all. And so at this point, it's really just about intangibles for them. And it's gaining experience, and can this group do it? Or like the questions that you start to ask yourself. And I think that people have a hard time talking about the Thunder because of that, because it is more about these intangible things than it is about, what's actually on the court. It's just kind of tricky to talk about. I don't know what you think.
So, I mean, I agree on the intangible stuff. That's like always the big picture sort of questions with OKC. It's like, can they get over the hump? Is the youth and inexperience or whatnot going to be a factor? I again, against these guys, like, look, the fact that the Nuggets have been with this core for 4 or 5 years and sort of know exactly what they want to do at any given time can also be an advantage. It could also be a disadvantage, because most teams now know how to guard the Jokic Murray 2-man game to take away little things here and there. And to your point about Jamal Murray, like, he just went through a series against a very, very good point of attack defense in Dunn, in Derek Jones Jr., in Batum. Those guys gave him problems for all but one game where he was masterful in game 5, right? Good luck doing that against OKC. Because I don't think there is a better equipped team to try and guard Jamal Murray than OKC, and I kind of just realized the whole Jamal versus SGA thing, Canada on Canada crime.
I was about to say, you go to Canada, but like you just betray Jamal.
I know. I just realized that. Yeah. Hey, it is what it is. Dog eat dog world, Hey, also OKC has 2 Canadians, Denver only has 1. You gotta lean into the majority there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Man.
But no, like I just don't think there's anybody there's no way that Jamal's going to have this excellent series. We saw what Jamal was last year versus Minnesota and their defense, I think it will be very similar against OKC, you know?
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And I was looking up the numbers with Shea off the court,
Mm-hmm.
and they were plus 29.4 against, and it was against Memphis. You know,
Yeah.
we're dealing with like the bench of Memphis and whatever they throw out there, and so it's not like, I mean, they clearly were not some world beater, but you know, the Casey Wallace, Aaron Wiggins, J Dub, Caruso, iHeart were plus 45. Casey Wallace, Isaiah Joe, J Dub, Caruso, iHeart was plus 44. Seems to work when you put Caruso and iHeart out there with J Dub. Like, it feels like they found something there that really, really works. So I would expect them to kind of keep going back to that well, and it, you know, I don't know what that looks like for Denver, because like most of the game is going to be played with Jamal Murray and Jokic on the court. You know, like they're just not going to set. They just can't afford to set them at any point. But when they do, you just think like, okay, the Thunder have to strike at that point,
right? Blow this game open at that point. Yeah. Do you? This is sort of another lingering question, because I think this is probably one of the questions you have for OKC in this postseason. It's like, can their offense compete with like the best of the best offensively? They obviously have Shea, which is you know, an offense to himself, but they didn't shoot the ball well against Memphis. They shot 31% on threes, which is second or third last of all 16 teams in the first round, so not very good. I think that could be a factor if they don't have a good shooting series. You know, if guys aren't knocking down their shots, the Nuggets are probably going to funnel a lot to Lou, like Dallas did. You know, that's probably going to be an aspect of their defense, being like, let's just force Lou Dort to beat us. Let's see what he can do. Let's see how much he can put the ball down on the floor. The other side is like, I have no idea how Denver is going to guard SGA. There's just not even from I have questions basketball wise, capability wise. I have no idea how they're going to guard SGA. There's just, do you throw Aaron Gordon on him? You know, bigger guy, the size. You know, could that be a factor, or do you just Christian Brown? I don't think Christian Brown could do it, to be honest with you.
I don't think he could. I think he'll have to start on him. And I mean, Peyton Watson is the guy that is best equipped to guard Shea in the series, but I don't know how much you can play him. He shot it well against OKC in one game.
Yeah.
And I just don't know if you can count on that to continue to happen with him. I mean, he can look really good and really confident in some games, and then there's just nights where you just know he doesn't have it. And so he's probably the best equipped to guard Shea, but they just haven't trusted him. You know, they played him yesterday quite a bit, but for the most part, they don't seem to really trust Peyton Watson. Like, he's not like a super core part of their rotation. And so, I mean, they may have to break him out and like just be like, okay, we're going to live and die with this guy, because we have to have somebody that can at least disrupt Shea. Because I just don't like. I think you're right. I just don't know that they have that in their starting lineup.
Yeah, I don't know either. Like, I mean, typically the types of guys that are intriguing against Shea is the length, the size, right? To match up, the physicality to be able to match up against him and not foul and not get in foul trouble. That's the other thing about putting Gordon on him, is like, you don't want Gordon to get into foul trouble. And he's such an important part of their defensive series. So it's like, wow, what's your answer to that? Because I think OKC has many, many more answers to Jokic than Denver does for SGA. And I was just looking this up, but in their little 4-game regular season series, Shea averaged 30, as he usually does. 35 and 6. And then the only thing was he shot 25% from 3, but that's like, whatever. That's 4-game sample. You know, he can shoot better than that. But yeah, he also had 2.5 blocks per game in their series. I remember vividly there was like SGA block on Jokic in one of the games, which was awesome. So I don't know, man. There's not going to be many answers for SGA in this series. So it's going to be, even if they are funneling it to Lou and they're daring him to shoot and they're forcing him to be that guy, which he's been able to make teams pay on that. It's, how are you going to stop Shea? I don't know. Tough.
Yeah. It's a cool opportunity for him because you have like the Jokic versus Shea factor in it all. You have, three. I mean, he'll be named MVP in this round, so you'll have 3 MVPs competing in one series, which is kind of cool. I don't know. I'm curious to see because it's another one of those things where I think that they are probably going to zone up a lot on Shea because they're most effective on Shea is zoning up on him, making him get rid of the ball quickly. And so I think like that is something that they're going to do. And I think it's something the Thunder have been working on too, is like getting Shea off the ball early and then allowing him to get in a better spot later, which I think is something that was really kind of perfected over time by the Boston Celtics, where it was just like, what do we do? Like Tatum and Brown, as the guys like bringing the ball up the court, like you just hound them and you get the ball out of their hands and then they don't really know what to do.
Yep.
But they really learned last year, like how to get Tatum off ball and like get him into action that's going to help. And I think the Thunder are on their way to figuring some of that out because I think you saw as everything just grinded to a halt against the Mavs last year that it was just like, is Shea going to be incredible or is he going to be average?
Right.
Because if he's just average, I don't think they can beat Dallas. But if he's incredible, they can. And now I think that they're less dependent on that.
Right.
And so I think that's really important.
Yeah.
Also, I think the turnovers are always a factor when you're playing the Thunder. And Denver against the Clippers had a turnover percentage of 14.8, which is 11th of the 16 teams in the playoffs.
Wow. Yeah.
So like that's a good thing if you're the Thunder. Like that's something to look for because how the Thunder kind of generate these big runs is through this just avalanche of points. And oftentimes that's done, started on the defensive end, but then their transition game.
Yeah, getting in transition.
Like that's where you just feel hopeless against the Thunder.
Yep. And honestly, I'll actually throw it back the other way too. I think the Clippers Nuggets series was predicated on pace and turnovers too. Like every single time, whichever team won the turnover battle there won the game. Even Game 7, obviously. Game 7 was just an onslaught from Denver, but they were great defensively. They forced tons of turnovers, got steals, got blocks, got out in transition, and the Nuggets are really good in transition too. So that's going to be a big question in the series. It's like, can you turn over OKC? And to your point about like zoning up on Shea, forcing him to be a passer, I think that's where Denver can kind of gain an advantage defensively here, where it's like, all right, we're not going to guard you one-on-one, but we are going to make it really hard for you to get to your spots with our zone. And maybe our zone will be sort of this like box in one type of thing. Cause we're watching Houston do something similar. Now, Houston is a much better defensive team than Denver, but we're watching Houston do something similar to Steph, where it's like anybody but Steph. You're not allowed to touch the ball. We're not letting you touch the ball. And again, they have Amen Thompson, one of the best wing defenders in the NBA. Denver does not have that, but they could deploy a similar strategy where it's like, all right, go ahead and, we'll force Jade. And this is, to your point about an average SGA series versus a really good one. I think this is a pretty big series for J-Dub too.
Yeah.
Because if that happens, right, if you're forcing Shea to have a mediocre series or have a series where he's not, kind of putting the pressure on the defense as much as he usually does, then it is a huge responsibility of J-Dub to take advantage of those situations, and Chet to a certain degree, but mostly J-Dub, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, he's got to get downhill. He's got to get to his spots. And if they just say like, hey, everybody else beat us. Like he's got to step up. And he did in round 1.
Yep.
Which clearly is a lot easier to do that against Memphis, but
right.
he still averaged, 23, 5, and 5.
He's awesome. Yeah, he was awesome in that series. Yeah.
He's playing with great confidence. He did not have the same level of confidence. He last year in the playoffs in 10 games, he shot 49% from 2. In round 1 in 4 games, he shot 64% from 2.
Wow.
His 3-ball was not falling. He was 28%.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't expect that to keep. I think that will eventually turn. And when it does, we could see him averaging 25, 26 points per game in a series like this. If I was Denver, I would make him prove it. Like I'm with you. I think that you have to make him and Chet prove it because what Shea's capable of. And so it's about like, how do we get the ball out of Shea's hands and it's about just like trade-offs, in the league. It's really never about like, how do we shut everything down? It's always about trade-offs. And so what do you do? And then if you're the Thunder too, with Jokic, like, do you make Jokic be a playmaker? Do you make him, score? Like he can do both.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's about that trade-off as well. So it'll be interesting to see how both, MVP candidates here are handled by opposing defenses.
Yep.
Because the Thunder will just likely swarm him. They'll use iHeart and then they'll have guys kind of cheat off of their defenders and get in there. Caruso is just a master of that. So I expect to see that quite a bit in this series. But yeah, to me, like that's the series is like who deals with the MVP candidate on the other side the best.
Mm-hmm.
Because I do think that if Denver can deal with Shea in an effective way and the other guys are not at the top of their games, then like that's the window for Denver to win this series.
Yeah.
Like that's how they win the series. I expect J-Dub to step up. If not, there's going to be a lot of interesting questions about, the rest of the supporting cast and their lack of experience.
Mm-hmm.
This is really, it's funny. Like, it's like, oh my gosh, the Thunder should do this. J-Dub's in year 3. Jet's essentially in year 2. It's already like, you guys better do this.
Yeah, you better get this done. I know it's wild. It kind of speaks to the whole urgency of the NBA where people understand like, hey, when you have a window, you got to capitalize on this window. Think of Memphis right now, which is going through it because, man, like 2-3 years ago, if you talked about Memphis before the injuries and everything, you'd be like, man, this is one of the budding teams in the West. They're going to be contenders for years. Just has not been the case. Now, granted, a lot of that is like SGA is on a different level than Ja Morant, right?
Yeah.
And he is going to be one of the best guards of all time. He's an MVP candidate. Will win MVP this year. Will probably be an MVP candidate for years to come, right? That's miles ahead of what Memphis has. And I think that's where you rest your laurels. You're like, look, this guy can elevate his game to another level. And you know what? I know this is sort of a different setting, different environment, but I've seen him do it with Team Canada.
Yeah.
Where it's like, we need to, there's no other options. Our next best player is RJ Barrett.
Yep.
And it's not like he's going to be getting downhill often, even though RJ is pretty good for Team Canada. But like, that's no J-Dub. It's no Chet.
Yep.
And Shea has been able to uplift his team pretty consistently. Now, granted, Canada has not gotten to the point that they wanted to in the Olympics, but they did in the World Cup. And I think that was a huge moment for Shea to get to that level.
Mm-hmm.
The other aspect to this, and you mentioned it with the zone, it's like if Shea gets someone on an island, it's a loss for Denver. If it's one-on-one and Shea is just kind of getting someone on an island, even if it is Peyton Watson, even if it is Aaron Gordon, Denver is already lost. So it's like throwing tons of help at him. Maybe honestly sending 2 to the ball immediately on pick and rolls just to get the ball out of his hands, and forcing other guys to make decisions. And to that point, the Denver defensively we saw in Game 7.
Yep.
the way that they were active off ball, the way that they were like Christian Brown was forcing turnovers and whatnot. If that version of Denver is what we get defensively in this series, that's also an interesting kind of wrinkle. Maybe that's the way that they flip this series. It's like, hey, we have to lock in on the defensive side of the ball. We have to force the ball out of Shea hands. We have to get turnovers. We have to get out and running. That's the way for Denver, you know.
Yeah, I think that they have to do that in order to beat OKC.
Yeah.
And that's where I'd be kind of scared. I mean, they gave up 115 points per 100 possessions, in round one.
Yeah.
And they played well. I think that they played about as well as they could have. Then you look at the other side, like the Thunder defense is just on a completely different level. I just think like the Thunder should be completely relentless because they have the legs and they have the depth. Yeah, I don't know. Before we go, would you like to make a series pick?
Yeah, of course. I think OKC is going to handle business here. I think it'll be Thunder in 6.
Okay.
I could see it being earlier. I honestly could see it being Thunder in 5. And the reason I say that is because Denver is exhausted. So they game 1 is going to be tough for them. 48, and now that this is the true test of rest versus rust, where they are at their highest level right now, and OKC needs to sort of ramp up to that. So that's a question, but yeah, I think OKC is going to win in 6. I also wouldn't be surprised if this goes longer, if for some reason it ends up being 7, but I still trust OKC to pull it out in 7. I don't think Denver is going to win this series. Yeah, that's just sort of how it is. Like this is why OKC made those trades, right? This is why they signed Hartenstein. This is why they traded for Caruso.
Yep.
This is it. This is the series. They all did it with the intention of facing Nikola Jokic at some point in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And so I think they are very, very well equipped to do that. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I will make my pick on tomorrow's show. So.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Tune in. That's called a tease.
There you go.
A tease. Yeah, please join us tomorrow. McKelly and I will also break down the series tomorrow, Monday. But I wanted to get something to you guys before then because they play tomorrow.
Yeah,
it's very, very exciting. If you're going to be at the game, would love to meet and talk to any dunkers. So hit me up. I think I'll be at the bottom of 108 at tomorrow's game. So
have fun, man. Have fun.
I can't wait.
Oh, we'll probably get you from the arena.
I'll say I'll see you.
Yeah,
we'll see you on the show tomorrow night. Mm-hmm. Hey, go listen to the Athletic NBA Daily with S. He's been fantastic. It's been such a joy to work with you.
Yes, sir. You too.
Anything else that you'd like to plug before we go?
I mean, I did a video on OKC's defense.
Yeah, you did.
If you guys want to go watch that, it's on the Athletic app.
Yes.
Yeah, go check that out. That's. I mean, that should be a very good warm up for this series.
That's right. It's quite good.
Yeah. But yeah, that's it. That's all I got. Thank you, Andrew. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you, S. And thank you guys for listening. And we'll talk to you guys again on Monday.